nothing left for me to hate, so I can lay me down, my brothers, on the ground. I bled today until Coyote comes to raise me up and carries me.
Hello and welcome to the Scottish Rugby Podcast. I'm Craig Manson, a fresh-faced, happy-go-lucky Craig Manson who is now, feeling free. I can breathe in, I can breathe out. There's no sore ears, there's no sore throat, there's nothing really. I don't feel anything ever since I took that cocktail of drugs over the last week to get myself through the pod last week. I kind of don't feel very much from neck downward. Anyway, great to be here. Really pleased to talk to you all tonight. We've got a fair few things to talk about. Joining me tonight is someone who told the monarchy they can keep their MBE rather than having it stripped from them. Alan, how are you doing, Alan McDonald?
I'm very well, thank you, Craig. And one of the worst arguments I ever had with a relative of mine was when I told him that I would reject an honour if in the very unlikely event of me being offered one. I was like, and he was like, "Your mum wouldn't let you." I'm like, "I'm 46. I don't think my mum gets a say in that."
And also joining us tonight, fresh from his trip to Dubai to become a rugby influencer, and then realised that maybe Dubai isn't the place to be staying at the moment. So he's got himself back into the Borders and into his very posh kitchen stroke dinette, I have to say. Mark Riley, it's nice to have you back again, mate.
Thank you very much, mate. It's good to be back. I've missed being able to chat to you guys, but the intricacies not being able to get any tech have been slightly annoying, but never mind.
Yeah. The last time, well, funnily enough, it's the first time we'd ever met face to face, and the last time I saw you was actually when you were shouting at the telly at high volume in the pub in Edinburgh. So it was great to meet up.
And, I thoroughly enjoyed that day.
Yeah, it was good. It was good, and we have had a wee message in from Brian Dalgleish already. Just as I was thinking, a quiet night, up pops the best notification. The best notification. Hey, Brian, that's very good. The best notification of a Scottish Rugby podcast. Well, I guess it's time for a cider or three. Cheers. Cheers, Brian. I've got no cider tonight. I'm working the one. It's a school night for me. I don't know about that. I'm not sure what that is that Mark's drinking. That looks a little bit like maybe warm and self-produced, but
no, that is absolutely the usual iron brew of an
iron brew. And I thought I saw Alan McDonald drinking water, but he's obviously realised that he picked up the wrong glass and he's got his whiskey started. So
no, that's an apple juice, Craig.
It was an apple juice. Oh, very nice. I'm sure. Yes, okay. So welcome to the Scottish Rugby podcast. Let me have a look. Our podcast is part of the Sports Social Network. Don't forget to give us a follow or a like on your favourite podcast app. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button because you will get to see our ugly faces, our beautiful faces, beautiful, the bestest faces. And don't you can find all of our links on our site, www.scottishrugbyblog.co.uk. If you're listening on Apple and like what we do, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts as well. Don't forget to follow us on social media as well. If you'd like some more content and want to support what we do, we can't always just survive on Johnny McGinty's Tory money. You can subscribe to our Patreon from just £3 a month, and that gives you access to a super secret Facebook group. And the second part of tonight's podcast, we are definitely, I think there's a bit of swearing inside us. I think, Alan, you were saying you've got a few swear words to say later on when we go into the Patreon side of the podcast.
Yes, I was a little disappointed in the Glasgow performance.
Well, I would hate for Glasgow to suffer what Edinburgh are suffering at the moment. But what's nice is that I can discuss we can all discuss, in fact, an Edinburgh win and a Glasgow loss for a change, rather than it being on the other foot. But anyway, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that and then go from there. Our open to free air podcast tonight is mainly just going to be talking about the main news that has come through that Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend has made 5 changes to the starting 15 to go up against France on the weekend. All the usual suspects are there. Ben White, Finn Russell, Kyle Steyn is still on the wing, even though there was talk of either him or Darcy Graham being replaced by Duhan, but Darcy Graham comes in at 14, Kyle Steyn at 11, Sione and Hugh in the centres, Blair Kinghorn at the back. But when we go into the forwards, the bigger changes, guys, it seems to be Pierre Schumann comes in at loose head, George Turner, hooker, Darcy Ray at tight head, Gregor Brown and Scott in the engine, Matt Fagerson, Rory Dars and Jack Dempsey, the James Brown of Scottish Rugby, who looks like he's crocked and he puts his jacket on and he throws it back off. No, I'm coming back on, is back to play for Scotland. And Jaws Black, who's just put a little thing about a little message in saying, we discussed the team, is Jack Dempsey our most influential and important forward. We will discuss that in a minute. Xander Fagerson drops to the bench. Grant Gilchrist, Josh Bayliss are all there as well. But a Freddie Douglas, upstart, an Edinburgh upstart, is on the bench as well to come in with George Horn and Tom Jordan finishing the 23. Well, gentlemen, Tweeny rolls the Toombola once again and produces something that's interesting for us to talk about, which is always nice of him. Mark, what do you think of it? What do you think of the team? Who do you think we are going to have issues, or who do you think is going to be performing well?
I think the backs kind of picked themselves to a large degree. I have seen a bit online about some surprise at Darcy being in over Doohan, which, I'll be perfectly honest, the debate has surprised me, because Darcy's going to be basically 1-to-1 with Louis Beep Beep. Mm-hmm. I would far rather see somebody who could turn in a phone box than somebody who turns like an oil tanker defending against Louis BRA. And I wasn't actually surprised by that. I figured that's what we might do. Otherwise, I think it's fine. I'm a wee bit surprised at Gregor Brown in the engine room. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a phenomenal player. But I know Max Williamson had a bit of a stinker last week. Or the week before last, rather. But I still would have liked to see a bit more oomph in the second row. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with it, except in the fact I'm assuming that Elliot Miller-Mills is injured, which is why Darcy racing.
I think it seems to be. I think that's why, for example, I think Murphy Walker was called into camp early this week. So I've got a feeling that that's obviously been the shift, has been Darcy's come up and Murphy Walker's there to aid preparations. But Alan, Gregor Brown, we've got to be pleased that he's actually on the field, though, I suppose, with Jack Dempsey coming back in.
So I
make room for him.
Yeah, I think we're thinking about this like as a French pack of old, a monster French pack, but this is a French pack that are playing two really back row forwards and second row. So I think there's an element whereby they're prizing mobility, and I think that was why Brown came on so early against Wales, was because Bayliss came on and Brown moved to second row so early against Wales. I don't think it was that Max Williamson was that bad. He wasn't setting the header alight, but I think it was he needed more mobility in the pack. And Brown, obviously being a flanker come lock or flock, as Franco tends to call them, I think he fills that well. And we've got Gilchrist on the bench if we need more grunt later on.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not a massive fan of recommending other podcasts, especially a podcast that calls itself the Scottish Rugby Podcast now and then when it's not, because we are the originals. But the best. The BBC pod was very good this week and had Gregor Brown on it. In fact, no, it's the fact that it's the BBC main pod that had the 5 Live one that had Gregor Brown on it. And if you actually have a listen to him, I understand. I got confused there because I was going to mention his name, Tom Inglis. I understand why Tom Inglis has got a wee love affair with Gregor Brown, because actually listening to him, he's a coach's dream. So it was quite interesting to listen to. So I do recommend you having a listen to that. Mark, Xander Fagerson on the bench. It's disappointing to not see him starting, but I think I understand why he's there.
Yeah, I think so. I'm kind of torn when I saw that. It was like, do we want to? The popular phrase at the moment is paint the picture. Do we want to paint the right pictures earlier? And having Darcy Ray start, are we running a risk of the referee coming down against us in the scrum, because I appreciate you can replace the entire front three, but I don't believe that the referee's mindset replaces completely. If the referee thinks you're folding in the scrum, you replace the entire front row and he'll still come down against you. So I'm a wee bit worried about that, but I think Tooney has a tendency sometimes to start half of his strongest front row and then sub on the other half of his strongest front row. So you've at least got a great scrummager. We're not South Africa, right? We don't have a bomb squad. We don't have a full replacement front row. But if you think that Schumann's our best loosehead, our best props are Schumann and Zander. So he's starting our best loosehead with our second best tight head, and then we'll replace them with our best tight head, second best loosehead. I think that's the only logic I can come up with.
Yeah,
I think. Oh, sorry. I
was going to ask you. Sorry, on you go on.
No, I think that I would agree that has been something that Townsend's done. My feeling, though, is that Sutherland is probably our best scrummaging loosehead. Or certainly has been. He's been off the boil a bit.
Take his name out of your mouth. Pierre Schumann is the best scrummager.
I love Pierre Schumann. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful man. But I think he gives a bit more round the park than Suz. But I think Suz generally gives a bit more in the tight. Yeah. So I wonder if this is as close to a BAM squad as we're going to get. Actually, looking at the bench forward.
Well, you see, I was thinking more that having Zander Ferguson on the bench was the Mondain squad. So that it's the Pom or forget it, Bomb. Forget it. I don't get the chance to put any puns onto the podcast very often, because usually Alan is knocked out of the park by then, and then we're just tryhards after that. So I thought I'd have a go, but no, I just flew by. I understand that Zander figures, and to be honest, you're probably going to find that Darcy Ray's going to get 35 to 40 minutes, and then you're going to bring a very, very angry Zander Ferguson onto the field, which I've got a few, because he's no matter what anyone says, anyone that's not that's not totally and utterly into rugby, maybe has only been watching the Six Nations games, might be thinking that they've left Zander Ferguson on the bench because he's had a poor few games, and he has had a couple of stinkers in the scrum and set piece. Not so much out in the loose, but I think it's more a fact of we're going to bring him on, and absolutely. And the same with Freddie Douglas. You've got Freddie Douglas there, who is just going to. They were talking on the BBC. They were talking about Rory Dars in his first full cap in the Six Nations. Scored something like 5 turnovers in the first 30 minutes or something like that. So you just know that Freddie Douglas is going to come on and make a difference.
I think he's got that mentality, and he's not the type to get overawed, by the occasion. And so I think he is someone that will just get stuck in.
Yeah. And so to go back to Jaws Black one's question, is the old Australian our most influential, important forward? Let one of you take it.
No. I think he's very important and very influential, but I still think Zander is absolutely our most influential forward. Without Zander, our pack folds 9 times out of 10, and we got no ball. However, I think the go forward ball that Dempsey gives us is hugely important. I don't think he's the most important forward, but he's possibly the second most important. I can't think of any other ball carriers that are in the squad or that have been selected. More on that later. But I can't think of any other ball carriers that we have that make so many of the hard yards for us.
Yeah, and
I
Alan
was very conscious. I was very conscious against Wales that our biggest lack of impact was lack of gain line impact. You know, yards after contact, hard yards off the base, etc., etc. And I think Dempsey's absence had a huge part to play in it.
But you know, Alan, the question for me though is that, you know, no matter what anyone says, yeah, of course, I'm a cynic about him at times. I'm quite cynical about him at times just because of his background, etc. But he has proven a very, very good player for Glasgow, influential for Glasgow, I'm sure. And he's played incredible games for Scotland as well. My concern, Alan, is that yes, he's got incredible go forward, and you can see him getting mad at other people when they're not performing to the levels that he thinks they should be playing at or performing at. My concern is he's a little bit like the Stuart Hoggs and the more old guard of Scotland who were the rock stars, but that was because they influenced the game themselves and almost tried to do everything themselves and then ended up making mistakes.
Yeah, but he doesn't make mistakes often, though. And I think if you're talking about ball in hand, he is probably our most influential forward. But obviously, the game's so much more than that. It's tackling, it's breakdown. But I think our most influential forward is our hooker, for good or ill. And I think that's the same for almost every team. Because you think how important line-out moves are for launching strike moves from. And so I think it's a bit of a boring technical answer, but I think actually the hooker is probably more influential than the number 8. But Jack Dempsey's plenty important. He takes the ball on, he does take it into contact, he tends to make yards, and it is rare that he doesn't get the ball back on his side. So yes, I can see your point, Craig. I don't agree, because I think people in that situation are the ones that take the extra step and get isolated and aren't thinking of the team and recycling the ball. And I don't think that's Jack Dempsey.
I think he's a smarter player. I have to say that because you do see it a lot from Xander. You know, Xander goes off on one and takes the ball, breaks through contact a little bit, and then gets turned over because he's the only one there. However, I'm always a big believer in, especially when it comes to forwards, that, you know, if you get turned over with the ball, it's not just your fault, it's the two supporting players behind you that are at fault as well. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I think what I personally would have loved to have seen is more of the Jamie Ritchie, Rory Darge, and Jack Dempsey back row. I think that would have been quite incredible to watch. I quite enjoyed it when it happened now and then. But I think you've got someone who's a ball hunter, a ball stealer, a ball poacher, etc. And Rory Darge, you've got someone who is in everyone's face, including the referees and Jamie Ritchie, and then you've got just this go forward machine that is the old Australian. So it's an interesting one, and I think it's a really interesting discussion. I think we should maybe come back to that, because it you know, at the end of the Six Nations, and maybe have a chat about it, because we'll have to see how he performs this weekend, and if he will help Scotland drag themselves to a win against France, a much fancied France. Great to see Josh Bayliss on the bench. He is just someone who changes a game dramatically. Tom Jordan, George Horn, again, two people. Obviously, Tom Jordan's there to cover as many bases as possible, I guess, but George Horn is also one who will change a game quite dramatically, guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, isn't it? we've got a bench that can, and bomb squad, bam squad, whatever. We've got a bench that can change the energy when they come on.
Monday squad. I'm not letting it go.
You're like Gretchen trying to make fetch happen, Craig.
So here's the question, though. So okay, we've got Tom Jordan in the wings, ready to come in at 15 if need be, or in a wing or in the centre. No room for Kyle Rowe. There's a lot of talk about Kyle Rowe getting a chance and Blair Kinghorn being stepped down, or Blair Kinghorn being on the bench to cover. And I'm one of those people that's Blair Kinghorn should start every day and twice on Sundays, but. Mark, you've got Kinghorn, Darcy, Graham. You've got all the old guard back, apart from Kyle Steyn, who's been muscling his way onto the wing and producing problems for Duran.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Kyle Rowe. I think he's a versatile, robust, and talented player. But for the first time in a long time, we're actually kind of blessed in the back three. I mean, a back three, depending on the game, a back three selected from Kyle Steyn, Kinghorn, Darcy Graham, Duan van der Merwe, Jamie Doby, and Kyle Rowe. I'd take any three of those. I think there is a lot to be said for the fact that Kinghorn also plays in France with some of these guys at the highest level, and therefore has he's not in awe of any of them at all. And quite the opposite. Some of them are looking at a guy that they play with and beats them week in, week out. So yeah, I'd have gone Kinghorn. I don't think he had his best game last week or week before, but he's a class player. He really is fantastic. And
you see, that's a difficult one for me, Mark, because I understand where you're coming from. I don't think a lot of Scotland players had their best game against Wales, but for me, if you look at the Kyle Steyn try, which was the first try. Against Wales, that big rangy run of Blair Kinghorn was significant for that. It was one of the, along with Finn Russell, obviously putting them in the right place. So I do, there's a lot of criticism goes Blair Kinghorn's way, and I sometimes feel that it's pretty unjustified, really. And he wouldn't go to the best club team in the world if he wasn't a good player. And it seems to be that
is he with Leinster now?
I'm saying not a word. Not a word. I'm surprised that.
No, absolutely, I agree. But when I say he didn't have his best game for Scotland, I think many people didn't have the opportunity to have their best games because there was a lot of real. I mean, the Welsh shut us down, and as a team, we played poorly.
Yeah. So that is us for Scotland. It looks like it's going to be an interesting weekend. Predictions, gentlemen. Who wants to go first? Alan, you got a prediction for the weekend? I think I know what your prediction is because you told me earlier on. But are you good? Have you got your background face, or have you got your out with Scotland fan face?
I think we're going to get gubbed. I just think it's going to be one of those days, unfortunately. Not least because I can actually make it to the game, so.
That's your.
I seem to recall not that long ago sitting in a pub with you in Edinburgh, and you're going, "I'll tell you this right now: we are winning. We are winning 4 games out of 5."
So no, we're clearly going to get 4 wins, but we're also going to get gubbed. So my prediction was 4 wins, and after the England game, I was like, "See, 4 wins still on." Look, can Scotland win this game? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we can test France in a way that they haven't been tested before. You know, there's lots of jouet, and we are the team that if they are off their game with that, we can pick up any loose balls, take advantage of the chaos, and maybe just get ahead on the nod. You know, that is certainly a possibility. But if everything clicks, then I think we could do not much wrong and still lose, if that makes sense. So,
And Mark, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, sadly I tend to agree. I think if we come out and play as we did against England, then there is definitely a possibility, but we can't afford to be 90% of our best, because they will simply monopolise it. I was very interested to hear Johnny Beattie, the young Johnny Beattie, talking this week. He'd been out with Olivier Roumas, and Roumas' son also plays. Anyway, he was saying he was playing golf with them, and they were saying that they think the French see our game as far more of a risk to their championship than England in Paris, which is fascinating in one respect, but the other respect being they'll be well up for it. And looking at their squad when it came out today, I mean, they're not taking any prisoners, right? That is absolutely the best squad that they could put out. The fact that they can blithely leave on the bench or leave out some of the people they have is just beyond belief, right? But can we beat them? Yeah, absolutely. If we are 100% on our game, if we are as physical as we were against England, I think if we put them on the back foot early, I think that's our best opportunity, as we did with England. But if they get a couple of scores up and get their dander up, so to speak, it may be ugly. Honestly, I think could be France by 18 or Scotland by 6. I think those are the two possibilities.
Well, I think Jalabert is going to crap the bed. I think it's time for this perfection to be thrown upside down by the people. They think they can create chaos. Wait till they've got us. I honestly do believe that Scotland are going to win this weekend. I think there's so much pressure on them, and also Galthié currently has been throwing shade on the changing rooms at Murrayfield and saying that they're so small and we have to change in the corridor and this and that and the other. Well, they're small for a reason. There's a big pillar in the middle there. That's a fake pillar that's designed to a reason to put you off your game. So maybe it's for me. I have to, well, there's a lot of talk about how good the backline is for France and how wonderful they are in this, that, and the other. I think looking at our backline, it's one of the best backlines in the world at this moment in time. And I think if our forwards front up and give them, we may not have the ultimate power that the French forwards have, but we have the pickpocket ability that Darge brings. Along with the Dempsey sort of mind, strong mind, etc. And we've also got Freddie Douglas there that can come on. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I think it's going to be a Scotland win. And I've totally not put it out there, but I've decided that's the way it's going to be. I'm manifesting. I'm getting in touch with my inner hippie, and I'm manifesting.
Scotland by how many points? 6-7? 6-7?
just like I thought everything was going well, and then it just oh man,
That was mostly to annoy Johnny McGinty if he listens back.
Just well, there's been a Tory reference and a 6-7 reference, so there we go. Johnny McGinty was supposed to join us tonight, but he's too busy working. It's ridiculous. I honestly, I think it's probably going to be a 4 or 5 point win. But I'm hoping it's a bonus point win. But we'll have to see. I think there's going to be a few tries scored at the weekend. But we've got.
I think France will score 2 to 3 tries, so we simply have to score more than them. That sounds like
the Bristol and Harlequins attack.
Blindingly obvious. But I think it's as simple as that, and I think a lot of it will be. I think, having read stats and things in the last week, France are just phenomenal in transition, so we can't be giving them ball. I think we will go to the air, but I think it will be on Atisogbe's wing with Kyle Stein running down his channel, and I think it will be all about speeding up our ball and slowing down theirs, and I think that's why Freddie Douglas is there. Simple as that. I think his turnover ability is fabulous, but his nuisance ability is up there too. And I think slowing down their ball and making sure we get quick ball is what the game will ride on.
Cool. Well, on that note, we'll call it quits for the open part of the pod, and we're going to go and move over to the Patreon side, where we're going to discuss Glasgow and Edinburgh games at the weekend, and also our patented Hands in the Ruck section, where we get to discover what's been written you're knitting in rugby this week, and we get to see Mark disappear to go and get a glass of wine while the music is on, because he's already got his glass of wine, so he's going to have to sit and listen to the music part of the Hands in the Ruck, just to cheer him up. So thank you to my friends Mark and Allan for coming on the pod tonight and being part of the pod. Allan, I don't know how to put it. What way would you put it, Allan? Would you put it that thank you to Allan McDonald for
joining us on the pod today?
Joining us on the pod today. Oh, was it tonight? I thought you were grimacing because you were thinking I was sounding like I was some sort of maniacal dictator who needs to be deposed before I start bombing all the influencers in Dubai.
Wouldn't somebody think of the influencers?
Well, they're all on Instagram at the moment, trying to get people to think of them. So anyway, we'll move on quickly because that's just going to disintegrate into a diatribe of hatred for influencers. So thank you very much to Allan McDonald and Mark for coming on the pod tonight and joining me here. And thank you to you all for tuning in and listening. Rory creates evening. We didn't get a chance to say hello. So hello, Rory. And we will leave it at that. And thank you very much. Have a good week. And Allez l'Écosse.
Allez l'Écosse.
Cheers, folks.
Bye. Right, I'm really sorry. I don't know how to end I'm struggling with ending all the streams. Did I just remove Mark?
Yeah, I think so. It just says remove everything except the ball-shaped microphone.
Yeah, I've removed it, and now I think I think I've done a bad thing.
Well, we're still running.
Yeah.
I've
That's the one.
I take it that's our Rory.
Yeah, it looks like it. Oh, yeah, we just got one more. There we go. Is that us?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, there we go. Look at that.
There we go.
For some
I
reason,
seem
that was much more difficult than it was in the past. I don't know what I've done. I've also only got one stream up at the top, so we might have created problems for later, but that's a tomorrow problem.
Well, it's tomorrow problem, and also it's got nothing to do with the couple of thicker measures of whiskey that you've had tonight.
It has nothing to do with that.
I actually, I can't get. I don't know what it was. My automatic login to the StreamYard Studio didn't work.
Yeah, no, I had to go in and enter my email and then log in properly again. Brian, Brian Douglas, thank you very much for your condescending clapping of hands. I really appreciate it. He's put a wee thing in the concentration and the big applause. Come on now, we're trying our best here. We're three older gentlemen trying to work with technology. Give us a break, and we've actually got one of the. Sorry, hello all you patrons. It's lovely to see you. We'll just continuing on, but we've just had a little bit of a steering session onto the computer while we get all the streams closed down and get back onto the Patreon and make sure it's only you lovely patrons that get this amazing content of us discussing technology, Alan McDonald's whiskey consumption, and whether Rory is watching this. Brian is also now saying, "Hey, I'm older than you." I was being polite, Brian. I was being polite. Anyway, we will move on as quick as we can because this is getting away. Glasgow 10, Connacht 15. An amazing game to watch. A phenomenal. Well, if any of you have been anywhere near Connacht, you know that in fact, if you take your jacket off the wrong way, you're going to end up in Belfast. But Kyle Rowe, funnily enough, we were talking about Kyle Rowe earlier on. Kyle Rowe gets a brace at the. Did they call it a dog track, or was that Ted Lasso that I've kind of mixed up? Sorry?
It's a sports ground.
It's a sports ground, that's it, yeah, okay.
However, I think you're right. I think it does have a dog track.
It was a dog track, yeah. Originally it was a dog track. I don't know if it still is now, but yeah, and I'm sorry I'm feeling peppy, but it's just really nice to be talking about a Glasgow loss and an Edinburgh win this afternoon.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry, yeah. We haven't got to Edinburgh yet. So I didn't actually get a chance to watch the game, so I'm going to just defer to both of you lovely gentlemen. Was it as epic a game as the score suggests?
I think the defences did well, actually. I think both defences were largely on top. It wasn't quite as dull as the scoreline suggests, because it was 3-0 at half time, wasn't it? Because I get back home from the shops and about half an hour in, and I'd be going to watch from the beginning. Then I looked at the score and I was like, "Do you know what? I can do it."
Yeah, in fact, it was Mark's message in our chat that we just went, "Well, this is a wonderful game to watch," and I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, okay, I'm not going to bother."
I mean, Alan's right. The defences were good, but it was not the best advert for the game of rugby you've ever seen. It was. And to be honest, it was not the best advert for Glasgow that you've ever seen.
It was a good advert for not playing games during the Six Nations.
Yes, Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
I think I agree with you on that one. Even though spoiler alert, Edinburgh won. Yeah, it's
Yeah, and you've just argued Alan's point for him.
Is there many Scarlets players that actually are in the Wales squad? I'm trying to think if there is. I've kind of thought they came up fully loaded, or is that just Cardiff that went fully loaded against Leinster? But
off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. There's bound to be a handful.
So, and any standout players from the game? Any standout moments? I'm sorry, I'm really unprepared for that just because I didn't watch the Glasgow game. I apologise.
Well, Kyle Rowe was good. As ever, he just, both of his tries he did a bit of work for. Again, just he looks like a player that will not let Scotland down if he's picked. He's not in the first tranche of players picked. He's probably the next in the chasing pack, and he went on to show why that week at the weekend there.
Yeah, I think as well. I mean, I know. Our Glasgow contingent, John and Johnny, are counting the days till Josh Mackay becomes eligible for Scotland. But Josh Mackay really is one of those players. When he gets hold of the ball, there's a wee frisson of excitement goes through the fans. He's quite incredible ball in hand, and for me, stand out. Kyle
Does he
Rowe
give you a tingle, Mark? Does he give you the tingle?
Oh, very much so. But yeah, Kyle Rowe and Josh Mackay, and to be fair, Dan Lancaster had a reasonable game as well.
Even if he does sound like Owen Farrell when he's interviewed.
Absolutely,
yeah, and I can't get my head around that at all. Nothing to do with English accent,
He's from Leeds, is he not? He's not from Leeds.
They'll sound the same to me.
Because I'm sure that his dad used to fly in and out of East Midlands Airport from Dublin, so he could be home at Leeds.
His dad played for the Scottish universities or Scotland B got caps for? One or the other. Yeah. Lancaster, because you guys know my mate Scott Aitken that I've mentioned before. Yeah, he kept Scott Aitken playing 7 Scottish universities, I think it was. Yeah.
So, am I going to give all of the Edinburgh fans a bit of a break and stop? All the Glasgow fans a bit of a break and stop talking about their loss against Connacht?
Their twos had a stinker against Connacht's 1.2s. Really, I mean, so
and
they just didn't win. So I don't think there's an awful lot more to say than that. Glasgow had lost pretty much a first team, and went with a kind of second string side.
Yeah, Glasgow have more than enough. Yeah, Glasgow have more than 15 players away with the national squad. Bottom line, it might even be more than 23, but it's certainly more than 15.
Surely, though, a Glasgow team that's going to win the European Cup would have more depth and just not have to worry when there's 15 players go away.
I strongly suspect that if they were able to employ who they wish to employ, they would have exactly done that. And I think that was frankly upset about losing Henkel Venter and Seb Cancellieri, because I think that weekend, a dogfight in the dirt against Connacht, that's when you need a Henkel Venter. He just stood up.
Henkel Venter would get you right out of shit at that point. Yeah. Absolutely.
Never mind Connacht. He'd have grabbed Glasgow by the throat and said, "Come on, buckle down."
Yeah, very much so.
I think with all the experienced players that Glasgow are missing, I simply don't think they had somebody that could do that. I
was Stafford no playing though.
Yeah, but I simply don't think we had anybody that could do that.
See, I think Stafford is someone that can do it, but I think it's hard to do it on your own from outside centre. I think you need you need someone with a high bastard quotient in the forwards.
And also, not a lot of
That
people
was
will hear
definitely
him.
Henkel.
Not a lot of people will hear him. He's so tall up. It's so high up that
It's the time it takes for his words to reach the scrum half that's the problem. It's that delay. Yeah.
Anyway, before it gets ridiculous, Edinburgh 24, Scarlets 19. Edinburgh come back against Scarlets, showing that they are mirroring the Scotland squad by overturning a 14-point deficit in a home game at the Hive. Ben Velicott, I think, got a couple. And everyone's favourite, everyone's favourite. He's so much of a favourite that I've totally not looking. His name's go. This is this whole thing about me. I'm getting old, and I'm sure I'm getting some sort of dementia because I'm totally and utterly like names just like Magnus Bradbury. Just went,
somebody that could help you find that out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Magnus Bradbury.
Yeah, Mark would be good at that.
Just left my head. Tries from I think Magnus got one. I think Ben Vela got one, and then the man himself, Harry Patterson, scored a beauty. I really, just as Brian Douglas is saying, good to see Connor Boyle getting some game time and Harry Patterson, 10-minute yellow card. He showed very good form. I love Harry Patterson. I think he's like George Turner. He has absolutely no fear and no thoughts on saving his own body at times. But it's definitely a game of two halves, guys. Alan, you were on the messenger when we were watching, because we're recording this podcast because we do it at night time. Would you believe? Nobody would know that, would they? But we're recording the podcast on Friday night, and we're just talking to each other while thinking, "Oh, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good," and then they came back. But it's good, for your thoughts on the match. It's good to see that we're getting that. Edinburgh come away with a 5-point bonus point win.
So I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's a bit like the Scotland win in Wales. People are complaining about it because, it's terrible, they didn't do well, etc. And they've got a bonus point win, and that's not to be sneezed at. And I think people are upset because the vibes are off. And, that is fair. The vibes weren't great in either game. Remind me how the URC table and the Six Nations table record vibes. Oh, they don't. So it's only a 5-point win is what they'll see. The vibes might make a difference, when the season's considered in its totality, but a bonus point win's a bonus point win.
Absolutely. And Mark, it's not having all your players away at a Scotland camp helps Edinburgh out.
Yeah, I mean, it does. There's no question about that. I mean, Edinburgh have less damage from being in the Scotland team than Glasgow do. I think one of the things that I wondered when I was watching it, I mean, Maggie Bradbury got player of the match, and he really played well. I mean, we were talking earlier about, big line breaking, ball carrying forwards. Why can't Scotland get that out of him? Because I when he moved to Bristol, I thought the same thing. Bristol used to use him off the base of the scrum a lot, and he was phenomenal. He's just what the Scotland team need. And that performance for Edinburgh, albeit against Scarlets, but that performance for Edinburgh, I would love to see him pulling that out of the bag for Scotland, but he doesn't seem to, or isn't trusted to try. I don't understand that. But that being said, I do think the vibes thing is important. And I think, I mentioned to you guys earlier when we were chatting before we came on air, was that I found myself a wee bit kind of meh about the game. and having to remind myself it was a bonus point win. You know, and I wonder if the Edinburgh vibes thing has infected the way I view it as much as anything else. And that's a problem, right?
I think you're right. I think me personally, I've kind of got to a point whenever they re-employed Sean Everett, my toys were out the pram, and I've kind of decided that I'm not going to bust a gut to go and watch them because I've had enough of watching this dirge play, but what you have to say, and I have to give them credit for, is to an old Edinburgh side. And I'm not saying this is a new Edinburgh side. This might be a one-off because that's the inconsistency of Edinburgh. But an old Edinburgh side would have been down 14 points down at half time, and would have come back a little bit and then screwed the pooch completely further down the line. They wouldn't have won that game. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that the same with Scotland. That game against Wales, they would have lost that game 2 years ago, but for some reason there's something changed in them that's making them work hard, be involved, not finish the game. And I know that you've got to look at Glasgow. Glasgow did the same thing against Toulouse. 21 points down.
Sean Everett factor.
Well, I would really love to be absolutely proved wrong and called a dickhead for ever doubting them, because I've been against him since the day he was announced, and currently he has proved me completely right. I would love him to turn around and gloat in my face and tell me to shove it because look what we've done now. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think maybe he's steeled them a little bit, and. You know what I actually think it is? I actually think they've got fed up of getting beaten. They've decided to do it themselves. Something's going on,
I don't know. It's tempting to say that and blame Everett, but I don't think you win modern rugby matches with Fidham. I don't think you win with fuck it, I'll do it myself.
On the one hand, I agree. On the other hand, this is his third year, and they are looking like possibly by dint of mathematics, maybe making the playoffs. They got away with it last year just by other people failing. It wasn't on their results that they made the top 8, rather, not the playoffs, the top 8. They didn't do it last year on their own results. They were waiting on other results. They will be in the same position this year with a team that is statistically as strong on paper in terms of the international representation as Glasgow. And whilst you say, Fidham doesn't work at that level, if it's his coaching, why the fuck where they are on the table? If he can coach that performance out of them, why hasn't he been doing it for the last 2.5 years?
Listen, I'm not saying Everett's a good coach. Let's be clear, but I just wonder if we're jumping in for kind of. I just wonder if we're jumping in because it suits our narrative. And look, I've been as negative as you both know. I've been as negative as you both have about Sean Everett. I would not have renewed his contract. But actually, I tell you one thing, even if the Edinburgh players have got together to do it themselves, then that represents significant progress from where Edinburgh have been. Because actually, they've not taken the game to the script.
You know me, I'm always coming down on the side of organisational culture and how teams work together and all that kind of thing. And if the team have decided, fuck it, we'll do it ourselves, in spite of the coach, that shows a strong culture. In spite of him rather than because of him, but it does show a solid team culture, And
maybe Maggie Bradbury is now at a point where he's able to lead properly. I think he maybe had the leadership, the captaincy thrust upon him at too young an age. And unfortunately, I think his Scotland chances have been dogged more by him losing the captaincy at Edinburgh and losing the trust of Edinburgh's coaches than his performances, because you just need to look at him when he went to Bristol and how good he was, and you know, the only person that's maybe I would say he was on par. I still think, you know, I'm going to hear John Anderson scream all the way over from Glasgow, but the only person I think, the person that was on par with was Matt Fagerson. I think he's just as good. I think Dempsey has got ahead. You know, he has got ahead forward. I honestly believe that Maggie Bradbury can play international rugby and can play international rugby well. I think he is an arm-round person. He needs to be guided, and I think that's what Pat Lam did down at Bristol, or Pat Lam and the coaches down there. And I think that he needs that. He needs to be needed. He works off being captain at Edinburgh. I think is really doing good things for him. But as I say, listen, if Edinburgh, if Scotland don't want him and he's available for these weekends, fuck it, let's crack on. But I do think that he should have more of a shout at number 8 for Scotland.
I don't think he's ever just fully convinced for Scotland. He's had games where he's been brilliant, but he's not looked like he's not looked like the player that he is at club level, at international level consistently. And he's been a wee bit, I don't know if he's done enough both sides of the ball. He's clearly a very good destructive ball carrier. But as we discussed, that's not every part of a back row's game. So I don't know. I can see why you're saying that. And he's been great at club level. I just, for whatever reason, he hasn't looked the same at international level.
He used to get accused of fading out of games for 10, 15 minutes at international level. You know, he might play the full 80 and he'd play well for 60, but for 20 minutes he would just drift out of the game a wee bit. Now,
well, that's a Scottish rugby thing, is it not?
Yeah, it's not just Scotland.
Yeah. You know, get him in. But he used to be accused of that. But I tend to agree with you, Craig, that was a while back and he's a very different player now. I mean, genuinely, his performance against Scarlets was superb. But yeah, that's for Edinburgh against Scarlets. If you could guarantee him putting in a performance like that against Wales at international level, or for Scotland international against anyone, that'd be fabulous. But for some reason, he's not impressing enough to do that. I'm uncertain why as well. Because I like him as a player. I think he's a fabulous player. I've always enjoyed watching him.
Absolutely. So we'll move on and we'll finish up. Are you ready for the button, Alan? Are you pushing the button? We'll finish up with the following.
Hands in the air, who has got their hands in the air? Hands in the air, hands in the air, who has got their hands in the air?
So it's that time of the night or the evening or the day or the... I've given up, Alan. It's just the way it is. It's our hands. It's our time to be telling everyone what's pissing us off with rugby this week, and what is annoying us. Our hands in the ruck session is about to start. It's a therapy session that helps us, especially those of us that have to be nice to people most of the day. Alan McDonald, we get a way to have a wee shout and a bit of a ball about people who are being pricks and need to shut up. So who wants to go first? Alan, Mark, who's got the juiciest hands in the ruck tonight? Come on, Mark. You've been off for a wee while. You've got plenty of time to think.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it earlier, but for me, it's playing club games in the Six Nations window. One of the main selling points for the URC back when it was started, and when they were bringing South Africa in, they reiterated it and all that sort of thing is, don't worry, the Six Nations window is sacrosanct. We won't have people playing during those. We won't have matches played during those windows. And of course, that's turned out to be total bollocks. And the matches at the weekend, particularly the Glasgow one, just showed what bollocks it is. Because I'm sorry, Connacht, but the Glasgow first team would have won that game at a fucking canter, right?
Not even with
Scotland
Bundyaki coming off the bench.
Oh yeah, with his Zimmer frame, yeah.
Goes to Bundyaki.
About to be powered by Red Bull, Bundyaki.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, it's just it doesn't help the tournament. It doesn't help the teams. The clubs, and particularly Scotland, with only two teams, we suffer from it. The Welsh, when they go down to two, God, watch this space, they're going to find the same thing, and it makes a mockery of the whole tournament to do that. They'd be better off running if they want to give youngsters and B team players an opportunity. Run a minor cup competition as they do in the Premiership, the Prem, because that's who played last weekend in the English one. It was club championship, right? So they ran out a bunch of 18.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, as Brian Douglas has just put up, we've got a belter coming up because Edinburgh are playing Ulster on the 13th, the night before the Ireland game. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a wonderful introduction for Scotland v Ireland, I suppose, and I'm quite happy to play Ulster when they've not got Balakoon and they've not got Stuart McCloskey and they've not got what's his name, Jacob the horse, Jacob Stockdale. So I'm quite on my side of things, I'd rather we play them, put a full strength, a virtually full strength. Maybe we'll get Duhan back for that as well. To play.
I think you will.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a good chance of it. I agree. We were promised by the URC that this wasn't going to happen, and now all of a sudden, now fair enough, the Edinburgh Ulster game was having to be played because it wasn't played because of bad weather. Excuse me, sorry, my apologies. I just think it's just that road to nowhere, to be perfectly honest. But you got anything to say about it, Alan?
It's shit and it shouldn't happen.
Okay, there we go. That's distinct and direction. Plenty of direction from Alan there. He's letting us know exactly, shooting from the hip as usual. So, Alan McDonald, your hands in the ruck for this week.
It's a bit of a soft target, but Wales Online this week marks the week where I just got sick of their clickbait headlines and I blocked them. And I was just like, do you know what? I don't need to hear, tragic accident for Wales star, and you find it's someone that played for the under-19s once in 2020. And you're like, I don't care, and I don't want to feed your ad revenue. But also, it turns out I'm very bad at impulse control, and I'm very bad at not clicking. And people don't always put underneath the save you a click it's talking about. And actually, I blocked them, and I would encourage everyone to do it because it's reach media. I think it's dreadful. barrel scraping stuff, and you can free your life of it.
And let's be perfectly clear, Wales are not short on rage bait at the moment, right?
Oh, no. I'm getting so fucking fed up. They're still playing fucking Darcy being offside when he wasn't offside for that try. They're still fucking going over it, and it's like, hang on a minute, the game was 2 weeks ago. You got beat. Get the fuck over it.
I can't cope
with
the distance of defending Matt Carley. Do you know that
having the biggest issue with me not having viable internet, and for those of you listening, I'm working on a 4G router at the moment because fucking BT OpenReach, but
because you're that committed to the point.
Because I'm that committed,
yeah. BT OpenReach, you the better connections.
But the pod after the Wales game, I was listening in, and honestly, that wee fucking vein was going for it because of the Welsh, all the crap about the Welsh, and that was my biggest upset at not having internet, was not being able to come on and do Hands in the Ruck and talk about all that shite about it. It was a punt, not a dropout.
Oh yeah, I saw that as well. That was one of them as well. Yeah.
It was a punt, not a dropout.
Despite the trajectory being clearly a drop kick.
Someone clearly tell Finn Russell what a drop kick is.
Anybody who has ever kicked a ball, a rugby ball, knows that was not a punt. Darcy was offside.
One player that didn't kick a ball properly, and it turns out he wasn't wearing blue.
Yes.
You're not tapping the penalty.
Yeah, Darcy was offside. Wales still had a physio on the pitch, so we should have waited on him. I'm sorry. That's not how it fucking works. Not our problem. And the worst of it, the absolute worst of it, is some Wales fans having a go at the fucking ball boy for putting the ball on too quickly for Finn Russell, which is the lowest of the low. Absolutely bloody appalling. So anyway, thanks. I got that out of my system now.
His family have stopped. 5 says his family have stopped telling everyone he was a ball boy at the Millennium Stadium, and were telling people he was actually locked up that weekend. No, he's a bad boy. So I was about to say Welsh accent, which is a very bad idea.
Yeah, that really was a bad. Yeah, I'm glad you stopped that. I don't know. I have to say, I really wish I'd been there at the weekend. We were supposed to go down, but things stopped us going. I really wish I'd been there, because I remember my first ever time at the Millennium was 2 years ago, and I loved every single minute of being there. I was wowed by the stadium. I was wowed by the access to the stadium from the surrounding areas. I was wowed by the people when we're having a pint in the bars, etc. What I wasn't wowed was the Welsh fans when they started to win. Because I've never sat in Murrayfield and turned round. Now, I'm sure there's definitely Scottish fans that do this, but I've never sat in Murrayfield, turned round to an English or Welsh fan when we were winning and went, "Fuck you! See, get it up, you fucking bunch of cunts!" Blah 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 blah. Right, and that happened to us. Actually, in the Millennium, when Wales came back and were just about to get up to us. Did I use the C word? Is there a problem, Alan?
No, I just want to point out that I may have screamed very close to that at the TV in Platform 5.
Oh yeah, you did, yeah, but you're allowed to do that in TV land. We're allowed to do that, but it was right in our faces, and all of us, Cammy Black, Johnny McGinty, and everyone were there, and I honestly was quite shocked by it, and it's not that I'm like clutching my pearls, because they can go. I'm not that bothered. But everyone tells us how fantastic the experience of the Millennium is, or the Principality now, and it was right up there. It was wonderful until that happened, and I was like, holy fuck! And then when obviously we gave it right back to them at the point that we won the game, because because now I wasn't swearing, and I didn't flick the V's, and I just said to the boys in front of them, some game I'm sure the right team won, and that was it. But I just felt it was if when it's going their way, they're everyone's friend. When it's not going their way, they hate everyone, and it's everyone else's fault apart from either the Welsh players or the Welsh coaching team. Mind you, the Welsh coaching team are still getting a bit of even Warren Gatland was getting a bit of hassle from them. But
I mean, late stage Gatland, to be fair.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and then it was stupid for them to actually employ him in the first place. But anyway, after you never go back. So yeah, it was. Sorry,
I lived in Wales for 8 years. As you guys know,
was that in your Scarlets supporting time? You like John Barclay, you loved it there, and when you played for Scarlets.
Yeah, something like that. And at one point, I had been to the. It was a national stadium then. It was before the Millennium was built because it was in the late 90s. And at one point, I had been to the Welsh National Stadium more often than I'd been to Murrayfield because I moved down there when I was 19, right? And there was a phrase I remember reading about Welsh rugby fans back then that I think is absolutely true. It's unbeatable in victory and unbearable in defeat. And I have found that time and time again. I found that with their fans on the terraces. And I'll be perfectly honest, I found it on the pitch. The nasty niggle that used to go on. I mean, I played fucking social rugby, right? Abercombe nowhere fourths,
Yeah.
And you're getting sly punches and fish hooked and all manner of things. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm only playing this game so I can have a pint afterwards and feel I've earned it.
Yeah.
I have strong views about that.
You see, this cements the reputation as the poor man's Englishman. They are the Englishmen out the Aldi centre aisle or off of Timu.
Yeah. Well, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I moved from Cardiff to London, and I've got more friends that I met in the East End of London that I've kept in touch with than I have done from Cardiff after 8 years.
Did they walk with their elbows up?
Oh, governor.
Yeah.
Ken, the guy I'm thinking of was as big as Allan. Prop, great guy.
Anyway, well, I think that's about us. I've not really got much of a hands in the ruck. My only hands in the ruck is what's happening to our club, our women's club game. Edinburgh seemed incredibly strong when they first came out and the Celtic Challenge was announced, and unfortunately they've gone on a fairly healthy losing streak lately. It seems that both Wales, the Welsh and the Irish have got stronger, and we haven't gone further forward than I thought we would. Glasgow are getting better and are getting the odd win here, there, especially against Edinburgh, but they're doing the same thing and not seeing very many wins. So it worries me, but that's more like a less. I guess it's only a hands in the ruck because I'm disappointed rather than.
I tend to agree, and I've been watching it, and I don't want to play blame because I haven't been watching it as closely as I did last year, for example. Predominantly because I have no fucking internet for 5 weeks now.
Is that because of the bombs in Dubai?
It's because of the bombs in Dubai. I tell you what, bombs in Dubai put the orange fuckwit on my hands in the ruck. I move to a place that has oil-fired heating.
Oh,
and consequently, Trump invades somewhere in the Middle East. My 500 litres of heating oil went up from 350 quid 5 weeks ago to 600 quid yesterday.
It's nothing to do with me. It's the Qataris. It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah,
I didn't
fucking
bomb no one.
Yeah. Anyway, back to the rugby stuff. I was slightly concerned about the Edinburgh coaching setup. Do you think it's as strong as it might be? And I mean that as a genuine question. I haven't watched enough of it recently to decide about that.
I had faith because the coach, especially the lead coach, Claire Cruikshank, is well respected, knows what she's doing, but we're at that point now where, are we needing to look at that? I don't know. I would hate for me. I think we need more women coaches in the game. We need far more women coaches involved in the women's game. There are far too many women's teams being coached by old ex-props and things like that, white men, whereas it should be younger women who are coming through who have knowledge of fitness, have knowledge of healthy living, have knowledge of many different things that they can bring to the game. So I have to back the coaching staff. What I would probably say, I think we need to be in a situation where if we give them another season and they're as bad as, or they're having as bad results as they've been having this season, I think then you'll probably find that the coaching staff will change. If the SRU have their finger on the pulse, but let's just say, and I really have to say, I really do not want Claire Cruikshank to be brought into the same conversation as Sean Everett, but they have celebrated celebrated meekness and celebrated averageness with Sean Everett. So, but I would never put Claire Cruikshank into there. So we'll wait and see. I don't know if I'm having a serious conversation here, and I'm just having a look here, and I don't know if it's Rory, and if he's had, he's been drinking Baileys, obviously. He's just started. We've got some comments coming in from Scottish Rugby Pod 2, which I think is Rory, and he seems to be, let's just say, putting me off. So Rory,
it's not just Rory. So I've been replying to Rory, but we both appear to be logged into the same account.
I tell you, they just ruined the whole thing. I was making a serious point. Okay, fair enough. I was making a terrible Donald Trump impression, but I was making a serious point, and they've just.
I thought your point was excellent, Craig, and I think, look, Claire Cruikshank, she definitely gets the benefit of the doubt, and the coaching gets the benefit of the doubt. You're talking about inexperienced coaches. It is entirely different than Sean Everett, who is an experienced coach. The women's game does need more young women's coaches, but I think, it's taking the best from men that are male coaches that are willing to help the women's game as well, and that understand it and understand the differences between coaching women and coaching men. So I think there is something. I'm being very careful here because I don't want to end up as Leslie's hands in the rucksack time that she's on as an old white man. But I think, look, it's okay for people to help. It's okay for people to help out with the game and things, provided it's not at the expense of female coaches who want to take it on. And I know, Craig, you'd step aside from your role if there was a female coach up and coming who wanted to take it on.
Well, yeah, I'm I'm just backing up a fantastic coach in Jack, who's lead coach for the Harlequins now. So I'm there to just help him achieve what he wants to achieve with the team. So for me, I'm nowhere near what I used to be coaching wise. I'm just there to help and be involved, because it's more for the love of the team and for the building of the team back up to where it used to be, and we've got some fantastic players coming through. My issue I have, well, I'll give you an idea. The reason I'm maybe being a bit more sort of trying not to be cryptic, but I've been involved with this. I've been involved with coaching for now for coming up to 15 years, and I've been to plenty of the SRU coaching clinics, coaching conferences, etc. And the SRU have got lots and lots of coach educators there, okay, who like to tell us coaches what we're doing, how to, they take us through. It used to be UK level 1, UK level 2, which I'm at, UK level 3, which was the best at the time. Now they're up to 4 and 5, and they're the ones that are there to now. When it comes to the women's game, for example, where are these guys and girls who are the coach educators? Because if they're good enough to be coaching the future coaches or the club coaches or the grassroots coaches, now I know some of them coach their own teams or their own rugby teams in their own areas, but why are they not? Why are we not tapping into these people who are telling us that how to coach, etc., and giving us all these different ideas? Why are we not using them? And I think there is a dearth of there's abilities out there, and looking backwards to coaches who maybe have been involved in the game at a high level in the men's game. May not be the way to do it. Maybe it's look at bringing some more coaches through, and using some of these coach educators to work together as a coaching team with these teams. We've got, I think it was either Lisa or it was one of the players I know who had said the drop, the increase from club game to Edinburgh or to Glasgow is significant, but the drop off from Scotland to the professional club game is significant, and that should not be where it should be. We should be, as far as I'm concerned, because we were in at the beginning with the Celtic Challenge, and Wales and Ireland were both struggling in the internationals game. I would have liked to have seen these two Scotland teams dominating in there immediately, or at least making a difference. And Edinburgh did for a little while, and then the other teams have come up to them. So it's a difficult one. It's never going to be solved overnight, and it's never going to be solved in a podcast tonight. On a Thursday night.
Why I kept it as a question is that I'm genuinely interested. I'm genuinely keen on the women's game developing for all sorts of reasons, and I just can't quite get my head around why Edinburgh and Glasgow do not seem to be as competitive as one might hope. Because to be fair, and I'm never far from the front of the line to stick the boot into the SRU, but I do think that making the women's teams basically Edinburgh Rugby women and Glasgow Warriors women was an absolutely great decision by the SRU.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And as you guys know, I went to the first game just as much as anything just to show support for that decision. But I can't understand. I can't get my head around why we're not competitive, and really not competitive.
I think the structures have been lacking. I think we're lagging behind, and I think we are going to have a spell where we're lagging behind, where we build up the structures and build up the teams and build up the culture and the coaching.
Same as the men's game did, basically.
Yeah. I think once again, the SRU have been caught napping. This shouldn't be a surprise, and they're having to build it up. I am biased because there was 3 Highland women playing in the Glasgow team at the weekend, and although they didn't win, it was Delight Seicha, Ailey McGilvery, and Rihanna Dara playing very well. So yeah, but that's my own personal bias.
I don't want to say anything about 3 women I've coached being playing in the Edinburgh game at all.
Oh, Craig, now come on! You always, but you're such a name dropper.
I never mentioned a name. I just mentioned that I've coached people. And I know people. I see people. So
I think we're back to Trump impersonation.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm struggling. The problem I have is that you've got Scotland, you've got Edinburgh or Glasgow, and you've then got the club game, and you have players who are playing for Edinburgh and for Scotland who are still playing for their club teams. And it's kind of like, well, pick a lane. Is Edinburgh, Glasgow going to be the best you can be? Then maybe you need to be focusing on that and not your Prem team that you play for as well. It seems difficult, but again, then a lot of the Prem teams will not be the teams they are without their Scotland players and stuff like that. So it's difficult. It's difficult, and I'm not saying I know the answer because I can't turn around and give you an answer, But anyway, on that note, and that conversation went on a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. But
all good.
It's all good. I think we've got a Glasgow and an Edinburgh game coming up this weekend as well, if I remember correctly. But I've totally not forgotten who they're playing. So do have a look out in the socials and you'll find out who it is.
When does the Women's Six Nations start? Is it back to back with the men's, or can't be far after?
It's I think. Ooh, hang on. I'm going to. Or is Alan on it? I think Alan's on it.
We're playing Edinburgh on Friday night.
Are they?
Yeah. So that's the Glasgow game and the Edinburgh game. I think it's in Scotland.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting. So anyway, on that note, a big thank you to both Mark and Alan for making the pod tonight. Making the pod what it is tonight, rather than just making the pod. Thanks for just getting here. Thanks to them for making the pod what it is. Thanks to you, lovely Patreon listeners. We are nothing without you, and we appreciate all your support and your comments. Even though it's mostly Rory, I think, who's been drinking Baileys. I think is it Baileys? You drink Baileys on a Thursday night, Rory. My goodness, geez, I'm not. I'm just not. Sorry.
He's arguing with himself. It's a bad
He is.
thing.
He just. That's what Baileys does to you, you see. So thanks to you all for tuning in. Thanks to both Mark and Alan, and we'll have a good night. And let's, as I finish the original pod, Allelikos.
Allelikos.
Have a good one.
Night.